Joining me live now is Home Affairs and Cybersecurity Minister Clare O'Neil. Thanks very much for your time, Minister. Just on the big change you're talking about to define critical infrastructure, what changes here and what difference could this make?
Well, Tom, you mentioned Medibank and Optus in your opening there, and we learned something very important in those two incidents, and that is that the legal framework that was set up to help government manage cyber incidents in Australia is broken. Those laws were completely useless to me and the government when it came to managing Optus and Medibank. And we do need to have a think about how we can make them more useful to us. This is a threat that is huge, it's relentless and it's growing, and we know that we are going to have to step up as a government and as a community to do more about this problem. The Prime Minister is making some pretty important announcements today to do with the coordination of this across government, so we're moving really quickly on this, but there's a lot of work underway and a lot to go.
And so that actual definition, what's it likely to include? I mean, how broad would it be? Is it basically any company that stores customer data that could be sensitive? Could that be considered critical infrastructure?
No, Tom, that's not really the discussion the government's in at the moment. So the big picture is we're having a big look at the laws that assist the government in managing cyber incidents and cyber defences more generally. There's a lot of issues in our region that are going to require us to build our cyber defences beyond what they are today, and we do need to make sure that our laws are fit for purpose. The real issue with the laws that help us deal with cyber incidents at the moment is that they have a really narrow definition of what a cyber attack is. What they say is they give the government special powers to manage cyber incidents only during the technical event of the cyber attack. And you and your viewers who watch these incidents closely will know that the technical event in a cyber attack is often over really quickly. What really matters is the consequence management that occurs afterwards. So if you think about Optus and Medibank, it's about identity protection for Australians. It's about restoring them with their licences. It's about making sure that we're protecting them from getting their health information shared online. So we're really looking today at how we make those laws most helpful and most applicable, because we know that this threat is very serious today, but as we look out to 2030, it's going to get bigger and more difficult to manage.
Right, so being able to get that access by law, was there any issue with getting that access with these laws not in place with either Optus or Medibank?
Absolutely, Tom. So what we found with Optus and Medibank, I literally sat down with these laws in the days after those events as we tried to work with Optus and Medibank to correct the damage that had been done to Australians, looked through these laws and found that they were absolutely bloody useless in helping me deal with the exact situation that the former government had designed them for. So there is a real problem with how these laws work today. They provide government only special powers to deal with technical events, when a cybersecurity event and incident is much broader than that. So that's one of the things that's under discussion today,
but I'm saying actual
Tom,
access.
but there's a lot else on the table here.
I understand those laws, but I'm just talking about actual access. Did Medibank and Optus say, well, you don't have the legal authority, therefore you can't get access?
It was more that there was a long discussion with both those companies about how we would be working with them to help take threat information, share it with other people in the economy who might find it useful. And if we had better laws at our disposal, then things would have been a little bit easier to manage. Now, we were able to get around the fact that the laws weren't working in those two particular instances. But what we've got to think about is the future here, Tom. By 2030, the cyber threat is going to look very different and much scarier than it looks today. And we've got to design a legal framework that is going to protect Australians and keep them safe all through that period.
You're also talking about today a new coordinator within Home Affairs. There is already a Cyber and Infrastructure Security Centre within Home Affairs with a group manager. Is this a new role, and how do the two roles interact?
So it is a new role, Tom. So one of the things that's been really clear about cybersecurity in this country is that when we came to office, we inherited an absolute mess. The former government had no cybersecurity minister, and we basically had a lot of good people in government and outside of it who were doing good things, trying to work really hard on this problem, but all rowing in different directions. And what's been lacking this whole time is strong political leadership that the Prime Minister is now showing on this matter, but also coordination within government and outside of it. So what we know is that we are only going to defeat this threat if the nation, the government and everyone in between works together and tries to help prioritise and give strategy to the work that's being done on cybersecurity. And the changes the Prime Minister's announced today with regard to how we manage that within the government is going to be a really critical part of making that happen.
We reported the Murdoch review was actually being conducted after those big cyber attacks. Have you seen that or acted on that?
Tom, I can't speak about that particular review there. So it's very common after an incident like this to look at the arrangements within government, and the Prime Minister has done that. One of the clear takeaways that we've received feedback from industry, business and all the people that we work with on cybersecurity is that those arrangements weren't fit for purpose, that there were many points of entry into government and that we needed to make sure that we were better coordinated in how cyber attacks were being managed. The reason that I say that, Tom, is because we know that we can't reduce our cyber risk as a nation to zero, and no one should, be fooling any Australian about that. Cyber threats will continue to grow, and what we need to make sure is that incident response, both within companies or organisations where this is occurring, but also within government, is practiced and fluid and seamless so that we can help get back up off the mat very quickly when cyber incidents do occur. And the arrangements that the Prime Minister has put in place are going to make sure that we're able to do that.
Okay, but there was the Murdoch review and the Falk review as well. Were they the same thing? Did they overlap? How did they differ?
So the Falk review was helping us look at the legal framework. So the issues that you talked about off the top there about the definitions of critical infrastructure and these sorts of legal questions, that was what Rachel Falk looked at for government. So we're considering her review at the moment, and we'll be able to speak a bit more about her recommendations in the forthcoming couple of months.
Okay, and the Murdoch review, that will be public as well?
This one goes to Cabinet deliberations, Tom, and so I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, so does that mean it's public eventually or not? It's within Cabinet, it stays there?
It relates to a Cabinet. It relates to a Cabinet deliberation, Tom, and as you know, of course, I'm not allowed to talk about that.
All right. Just finally, news today, Abdul Ben Brika, a convicted terrorist over several plots in the 2000s, reports that he could be set to be released soon. Is that accurate?
Well, the term of his continuing detention order will expire, Tom, but I think there is a very significant court case underway with that, and I'm not going to get into that matter. It's not appropriate for me to comment when there are legal issues that are on foot before a court.
Is it fair to say the government is seeking to have him remain behind bars, though?
Again, Tom, I'm not going to comment on it. I'm certainly not going to say anything that might jeopardise a legal case that's before the courts at the moment on something so serious and significant as this. I can tell you that the government will 100% be acting with the national security of Australians forefront of their mind on every occasion when these matters come before us.
The other report was this terror risk assessment tool known as the VERA has had its accuracy questioned in a private report that has now been released to his lawyers. Is that accurate?
Look, Tom, again, sorry to continue to just say it, but there is a court case on foot at the moment that relates to someone who is a convicted terrorist, and I'm not going to get into the detail of that court case and in any way jeopardise the public's interest here. I just repeat to you again, the public interest and the national interest here is protecting the security of Australians, and that will be the single driving force of how we make decisions on this matter going forward.
Okay. A non-specific question then, broadly, if that tool is being questioned, might we need a new one? Would the government seek to develop a new one that perhaps was seen to be more accurate?
Tom, I'm really grateful for these questions, but again, I'm not going to make any comments that are going to end up in a transcript before a court of law about something so incredibly serious as how we protect Australians from terrorist risk. So I will allow the court case to play out before making any public comment on that matter.
Minister Clare O'Neil, thanks for your time today.
Good to talk, Tom. Thanks so much.